Hey, I'm Dr. Jen Landa, hormone specialist and anti-aging expert, and the creator of the 3 Weeks to Endless Energy program. And I want to welcome you to your 7 strategies to get to sleep fast and stay all night program. So excited to talk to you about this topic. If you don't sleep well, the most important thing that you need to do right now is to find out how to get more sleep. And that's why I created this program, because I want to teach you how to get more sleep. So why? Because lack of sleep has terrible consequences. Waking, the reason you might not be able to take off weight might be because you're not sleeping well at night. And what about CRS? What's CRS? Can't remember stuff? If you can't remember stuff, one of the big reasons might be because you're not sleeping at night. It affects your short-term and long-term memory, both. And what about concentrating? So many people these days are talking about, I have ADD, I can't focus. Well, lack of sleep can lead to lack of focus. And what about your mood? If people are saying, hey, you seem a little short with me lately, you're cranky, or my favorite, I have a 12 and 14-year-old, you're a mean mommy. Okay, it's definitely not my favorite, but when I haven't slept, I don't remember stuff and I'm cranky the next day. But you know what? It's way more serious than that. I was reading about a recent study where people who were awake for 17 hours had the same impairments of people who had blood alcohol levels that put them at a DUI level. Like they had poor judgment, they had poor reaction time, the same stuff that happens when you're drunk driving, basically. So how scary is that? We're driving our kids around all day, we're driving ourselves around all day, we're driving on the roads and threatening other people, and here we are, we're impaired to the level of somebody who's drunk driving because we didn't sleep well the night before. And what about health concerns? You may not realize it, but diabetes, high blood pressure, these things have been linked to insomnia. And it's a huge problem worldwide. At least 30% of people around the world suffer from insomnia. So if you're suffering from insomnia, you're certainly not alone. And it's a huge business. The business of sleeping pills is what I'm talking about, my friends. $32.4 billion spent on sleep medications and sleep aids. And we're talking about serious medications. We're talking about medications like barbiturates, like Valium, Xanax, Ativan. Those medications are given to people a lot of times to help them sleep, and unfortunately, they're not given with the warnings that tell you, you know what, that medication that you're on, it's addictive. It's habit forming. It's going to be almost impossible to get off it unless you find something else to help you sleep, number one, and number two, get off it extremely slowly. So I am not by any means right now telling anybody to jump off those medications. That can have serious consequences. You need to talk to your doctor to get off those medications. But what I am telling you is that you want to make it a goal to get off those medications, and you want to discuss that with your doctor. So then what about the other medications, the ones that are supposedly non-habit forming, like Lunesta, Ambien? Tons and tons of people are on these medications, but the FDA just came out with a warning letter within the last year that is telling doctors that we have to prescribe these medications at a lower dose than we ever thought, half of the dose that we thought before, because the medications are being found at high enough levels the next morning in some people that it's causing impairment when they're driving into work. And so the FDA came in and said, nope, those medications, we have to cut the doses in half. And what about the side effects? I'm going to read to you just a quick list of some of the things that can happen. Burning or tingling in the hands, feet, arms, legs, changes in appetite, constipation, diarrhea, difficulty in keeping balance, dizziness, drowsiness, dry mouth or throat, gas, headaches. I mean, it's insane, and I only got through H on the alphabetical list. So if you are on these medications, I really recommend that you listen to the 7 sleep strategies that I'm going to give you and employ them today, tonight, starting tonight. Start doing the things I'm telling you to do, because you can get off these medications. But again, you want to do that with your doctor's recommendation, and you want to do it really slowly. I know once a doctor tells you you want to get off these medications and you're listening to me, you're like, Dr. Jen, yeah, you're right. I don't want to be on medicine. But that doesn't mean you can get off of it quickly. That means you have to get a strategy. You have to partner with your doctor, and you have to figure out how you're going to do it. And the most successful way is usually very slowly. So take your time, don't rush it. So do you have insomnia? You may know the answer to that question, or you may not realize a ton of different things are what goes into insomnia. So do you fall asleep easily and stay awake all night? If so, maybe you don't have a problem with insomnia, and that's awesome. But if you're still tired after you wake up after a full night of sleep, you may have insomnia. Do you feel like your brain is turned on all night and you can't shut it off, and you're sleeping but you're not really sleeping? That's a part of insomnia. And what about your bed habits? We're going to talk a lot about your sleeping habits, but if you're going to sleep at different times and waking up at different times, you're not doing yourself any favors. What about this one? This is an interesting one. Do you get your most restful sleep between 6 and 9 a.m.? I know a lot of people with insomnia who have that problem, and if that's your problem, I can help you with these 7 sleep strategies. Or what about not being able to sleep past 5 a.m.? That's another form of insomnia. So if you have any of those issues going on, you've got insomnia. And you know what? If you're a woman, your risk of insomnia is even higher. Women in menopause, insomnia affects about 60% of women in menopause. I see this all the time, every day in my practice, women who don't sleep. And then when I give them these sleep strategies and they come back in and they've been sleeping, it's amazing what else has gotten better in their life just from sleeping. So what are some of the causes of this lack of sleep? I'm just going to get a quick sip of water here. So some of the causes of hot flash of not sleeping, I just gave you a clue, right? One of them is hot flashes. So women transitioning to menopause, they have hot flashes. It keeps them up at night. What else? Mood issues definitely can cause sleep problems. Depression and anxiety can cause people to have problems sleeping, but then the problem sleeping can cause depression and anxiety. So it's like a circular thing that happens with people. Stress. Who isn't stressed these days? But sometimes stress can be a big part of why you're not sleeping well. Apnea or sleep apnea, sleep disordered breathing. So what does that mean? We hear that term thrown around a lot, but what it means is that you're not breathing well at night. You're not able to catch your breath at night. So if you ever have somebody sleeping next to you and you hear them gasp for air in the middle of the night, like, shh, and then you hear them start breathing again, that's sleep apnea. And sleep apnea can be corrected. Well, first of all, it can be detected by sleeping with a certain device, and that can be done at home or it can be done in a sleep lab. And it also can be corrected with numerous different devices. So see a sleep doctor or your primary care doctor if you think that you have sleep apnea, if your partner's told you that you're doing something like that. Even snoring, heavy snoring can be a sign of sleep apnea. So if you have heavy snoring, you really want to get evaluated for that. Other risk factors for insomnia. So I talked about menopause, but there's a bunch of different hormones that really play a role in our sleeping. So if you're not sleeping well, you may be having problems with a lack of estrogen, but it could be a lack of progesterone. It could be too much cortisol. So there's lots of different hormones that contribute to sleep. And another thing is it works vice versa, that while we sleep, we make certain hormones. So if you're not sleeping, you may not be making certain hormones that are making you feel crappy if you don't have these hormones. Another thing that's pretty obvious that causes sleep problems is shift workers. People who work at night and sleep during the day, that can definitely cause issues with your sleeping. And frequent travelers, people who go through different time zones a lot, that's obviously going to make a big impact on your sleep too. So if you're ready, I want to jump right into the 7 strategies that are going to help you get to sleep fast and stay asleep all night. Strategy number 1. If you know me, you know that a lot of the things I talk about start with nutrition. Start with eating right. So yes, I'm going to tell you, believe it or not, what you eat during the day, and especially what you eat nearing bed, can really have an effect on your sleep at night. One of the big reasons why is because cortisol is a hormone that goes up when we wake up in the morning to its highest levels and then down as we go throughout the day. But way too often, I see people who have a high cortisol at night. And high cortisol, besides, you've heard cortisol makes you gain weight and stuff like that, but besides that, cortisol can also be keeping you up at night. It's that hormone that makes you feel a little revved up, like it's not really time to go to sleep, and you want to go to sleep, you're kind of tired, but at the same time, you feel like you can't stop thinking, you can't shut your brain off. All of that is cortisol. So why am I bringing up this hormone cortisol? It's because one of the big ways that you can control your cortisol is through managing your nutrition. And for those of you who've done the 3 weeks to Endless Energy course, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because I go over all the strategies that you can use to get your cortisol under control, to have great energy during the day, and to get your energy lower at night to get to sleep. But I want to remind you of certain of those strategies here, because one of the biggest things that I see is people who wake up between like 1 and 3 a.m. and then they can't get back to sleep, or they get back to sleep but maybe just for an hour at a time, and then they find themselves waking up again and looking at the clock, checking it, and they check the clock 3, 4, 5, and finally at 6 a.m. or so they might fall asleep for another hour when it's time to wake up, right? So what is causing this? Well, one of the big problems that can be causing this is cortisol getting released in the middle of the night when it shouldn't be. But what causes that? Big part of the problem is low blood sugar. So I know you're going, I'm all over the place now. What are you talking about? Well, let me put it this way. I'll ask patients a lot of times, so when is the last time that you eat at night? And so thinking that so I'm going to ask you right now, when's the last time you eat in the evening? So you might be thinking, well, I know what Dr. Jen's looking for. Dr. Jen's looking for me to say that I'm finished eating by 6:30 or 7 o'clock, and then I don't eat anything else. Wrong. Absolutely not what I want you to do. So believe it or not, what I'm saying is I do want you to have a snack before bed. But it's important to really look at what you're eating all day and then have the right snack. So what is this I'm talking about? What I'm talking about is eating foods that balance your blood sugar. So avoiding foods that are high in sugar, especially as you get toward evening, is really important. And that even includes high carbohydrate meals. So not having anything white at dinner time. By white, I mean white rice, white bread, pasta, potatoes. I want you to really try to avoid those foods at dinner. Maybe a little bit of brown rice, maybe a little bit of lentils or some sort of bean would be okay, because they don't spike your blood sugar. Because what happens when you spike your blood sugar is that in the middle of the night it can crash, it can come crashing down. And when it crashes, cortisol is going to go up. So when blood sugar goes up and then crashes, cortisol will go up to release more sugar into your bloodstream, because that's one of its jobs. What does it also do is it wakes you up in the middle of the night. So if you're frequently waking up between 1 and 3, one of the things you might not be doing is managing your blood sugar well in the evening. So like I said, avoid those white foods. Also, alcohol is a big part of this, because alcohol converts very quickly in your body to sugar. So we know that. And so you want to avoid alcohol in the evening. You want to avoid eating something sugary, but then you also don't want to go to bed with low blood sugar. So if you eat dinner early, like 5 or 6, you want to make sure if you're going to bed at 10:30 to have a little snack before you go to bed, because when you're sleeping, you're going to be fasting for a really long time, right? Because you're not eating, hopefully. So that means that your blood sugar can be really low, which will cause cortisol to rise. So the best snacks that I've seen before bed, if you're eating gluten, which I think a lot of people need to give up gluten, and I talk about that in 3 weeks to Endless Energy as well. But if you're eating gluten, then a piece of whole grain bread with some almond butter on it would be a great choice. But if you've decided to give up gluten, which I encourage you to try, I recommend trying a couple of slices of apple, So a few apple slices with some almond butter on them can be a great snack to help keep you asleep all night. You would not believe the number of patients that I've told this solution to, and they've tried it and they're amazed. Dr. Jen, that's kept me asleep all night. Can't believe it. So you gotta try it. Another thing to avoid is the artificial sweeteners, because that gives you sugar cravings. So if you eat artificial sweeteners, even if we're talking like maybe an afternoon snack, that may make you crave more sugar after dinner. So you've got to really look at what you're eating all throughout the day. All right, number 2, strategy. So strategy number 1 was nutrition. Strategy number 2 is to establish a bedtime ritual. Get to be ritualistic. So the snack before bed was one of the first things that I want you to do in your ritual. But I have several other things that I want you to look at doing. So I want you to look at doing things that relax you, not doing things that stress you out. That's pretty obvious, but so many people aren't doing it. So in the hour to 2 hours even before you go to bed, I want you to stop checking email. I want you to stop looking at things that stress you out. And I know you might feel like you can't do that, like it doesn't make sense for you to do that because you've got to get ahead for the next day. Well, let me tell you, if you get a good night of sleep and you can focus the next day and your memory is better the next day and your mood is better the next day, those things are going to get you ahead better at work, better than answering email at 10:30 at night can. I promise you will be more effective the next day if you get this sleep. And the best way to get the sleep is by starting with this bedtime ritual. So avoiding email, avoiding anything that's going to stress you out. Really, I want you to avoid the TV and the computer screen altogether. So the reason why is because of melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone that's natural to us. It goes up when we want to go to sleep. So melatonin helps us sleep. The problem is melatonin is released by a gland in your brain that's sensitive to light. So melatonin is released at night because our bodies know we're supposed to sleep at night. So if you start looking at bright lights like computers, iPads, TV screens late at night, your melatonin clock is going to get all messed up. Your body's going to get confused and it's not going to realize that it's sleep time. So that's why you have to get away from these devices in the evening. Another thing that you need to do is really just establish this routine. So you know what? I always think back to when I was raising my kids. So I told you my kids are 12 and 14, but when they were babies, I had to establish a routine for them, a ritual, right? So we read a story every night in my lap and then put them into the crib and put them down. And, you know, I should back up. Maybe before we read the story, they had a little bit of warm milk, right? So you have some warm milk, you read a nice story, you cuddle for a few minutes, and then you go to sleep. So there's a ritual there. So what's your ritual? If your ritual is checking email and then trying to shut the light off, or watching TV and then trying to shut the light off, it's no wonder you're having trouble getting to sleep. So you've got to establish this new ritual. One thing that I love to incorporate in these rituals is having a soothing cup of tea at night. I have a cup of tea almost every night, and lately I've even started to get the 12 and 14-year-old in on it. My husband's Adam, he's been on board with it for a while. We have our cup of tea in the evening, but recently the kids are even asking me, hey mom, which tea would I like? And I love yogi tea. Yogi teas are awesome, and they really have some really nice types of teas which you can do at night. My daughter loves sweet stuff, so we did Tahitian vanilla for her, and she loved it. And my husband and I, Adam and I, we were doing, there's one called Kava Stress Relief, or there's another one called Relaxed Mind, and so I love some of those. But you can find calming, soothing teas from any brand and start a tea routine for yourself. So it's like your baby's milk, right? And then what else? So instead of a calming story, maybe you want to do some relaxation techniques. And we're going to go deeper into relaxation techniques later in this video. And I'm going to actually run through a relaxation technique right with you that you can use when you're done with this video, you can continue using this relaxation technique. And you want to dim the lights. I'm going to tell you more about lights in a few minutes, but dimming the lights in the evening is a really smart thing to do because it's going to help kick in that natural melatonin. So we start pretty much after dinner lowering the lights. And of course, you've got to avoid caffeine. Caffeine in the evening is a must. Now let's talk about the light problem. Let's get back to that. I told you I'd talk about the light problem. So we've been, using electric lights for over 100 years since Thomas Edison created the light bulb, right? But the thing to know about that is the type of light that he created was this incandescent light. That's what they call it. And that's kind of a yellow light, right? All the kind of older fashioned lights, if you think about them, they're kind of yellow. And that yellow light is not what you see in daylight, let's say. Daylight is a pretty blue light, if you've ever really looked at the difference. And if you've bought light bulbs recently, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. They go from this yellow tone incandescent light, and they call that soft white sometimes, all the way through daylight bulbs, which are much bluer, much brighter, and especially these fluorescent energy efficient bulbs. So this move in recent years to these fluorescent energy efficient bulbs are great for energy savings, great for saving money, and I love them, but they are really bad for keeping you up at night because they mimic daylight. So they're going to trick your melatonin sensors in your brain even more to think that you should be awake. So here's what I suggest you do, and here's what we did in our house. We do a mix of those yellow lights and the blue lights because I happen to love the daylight blue lights for during the day, and especially in the morning when I really want to wake up at 6:30 in the morning. I want to wake myself up. I flip on, I love light. My husband's always laughing at me because I just love the light, and I switch them all on and I put these daylight bulbs on, and I'm super happy because it really makes me nice and awake. But we've mixed those daylight bulbs with some yellow incandescent type, soft glowing type bulbs. So in the evening, over my kitchen island, over the dining room table, in the family room where we watch TV sometimes, we have those lighter lights. And so right after dinner, even if we're going to watch TV for a little while after dinner, we'll start with those low, even during dinner, we'll start with those lower lights. And then we'll shut off the TV, and then we'll have our tea with those lower lights going on. So you can have a combination of the two, but you have to be aware of it, obviously. And another trick, which I just learned about, this is really cool. There's a software from a company called f.lux. So go to f.lux. I think it's f.lux.com. You can download this software that changes the color temperature of your computer as you go through the evening. So your computer is going to do a better job. So if you must be on the computer and you will not listen to me about getting off the computer in the evening, at least try this f.lux software to change the color temperature from that blue to that yellow tone, which is going to get you more, your body a little bit sleepier and more in the mood to get to sleep. All right, so we've covered number 1, nutrition. Number 2, establish a bedtime ritual. Now we're ready for number 3, your sleep environment. Your sleep environment is crucial to getting a good night's sleep. So, of course, number 1, you need a comfortable mattress and bedding. If you've been sleeping in the same bed for 10 years or more, your bed probably has sags in it. It's probably not in good shape, this mattress, and you might want to try replacing your mattress if you can, because I've seen that make huge changes in people's ability to get to sleep, and especially with all the stuff we have out there nowadays. The sleep number beds, if he likes it hard and she likes it firm, or vice versa. Those can be awesome. I love my Tempur-Pedic-like bed. We got one of those beds. It's not that brand, but it's like that. And I just love that bed. And I get the best night of sleep when I'm home in my bed because we bought this great bed. It was an investment, but it was worthwhile because it really makes a difference, and that makes a difference to everything in your day to follow, as we've talked about, because it's the most important thing you need to do more right now is to get better sleep. Temperature. The cool temperature is best. I've read studies that even talk about 65 degrees. Okay, for me, that's way too cold, but a cool sleeping environment is best. So maybe a degree or 2 cooler than you normally like it. If you live in a cold climate, that's great. You can open a little window. But try to sleep with a cool climate, and also adjust your blankets for the seasons. You know, you would be amazed at the people who don't do this and the impact it makes. Of course, I see a lot of women going through the menopause transition, and I have a lot of them who tell me they're sweating. But recently, one of them brought to my attention that she'd been sleeping with a yummy down blanket, snuggling it right up under her chin, because there's this move toward these beautiful, cushy bedding down blankets. Well, she realized finally that she was sweating from this down blanket. She changed her blanket, and believe it or not, her hot flashes went away. I know it sounds so ridiculously stupid, but you've got to try it. So me personally, I love the yummy down blanket when I'm cold, but for the most part, it stays rolled down at the end of my bed. I do live in Florida, so it is expensive to get our house down to 65 degrees, would be kind of crazy, especially in the summer heat. So we sleep with a sheet and a light cotton blanket for the most part, and when I'm cold, and a ceiling fan. And when I'm cold, in the winter, I use the Snuggly Down Comforter. So just rethink your blankets, because it could be as simple as that, which is crazy, but it can be. Here's another stupid simple one that you're gonna love. Block out as much light as possible. So you might say to yourself, well, I don't have light in my bedroom, Dr. Jen. Well, it might be light that you're not noticing. What about the light from your alarm clock? What about the light from that LED blinking thing on your phone? What about, we have so many LEDs in our lives now, the cable box, the TV. And here's one that I love. A guy in my practice told me his alarm panel was lighting up the sky in his bedroom, and he didn't realize it until we chatted about it. He just threw a black t-shirt on top of the alarm panel, and he slept like a baby. He could not believe that that was the answer to his problem all that time. So if you've got an alarm panel in your room, cover it with a black t-shirt, please. And really, get blackout shades if you need them. The other thing is blocking out noise. Noise can be a huge interruption for people, so get a white noise machine. You can play with that, just the white noise, like that shh sort of sound. Or you can play ocean noises, forest noises, whatever you like that helps you get to sleep. For me, it's absolute silence. So when I go to hotels, I always take earplugs with me, because inevitably there'll be something going on that keeps me awake. And I don't sleep as well when I travel, so I really have to use these strategies and be even more strict with them when I'm traveling, because I hate being away and not getting a good night of sleep, and then either having to present at a conference or want to try to be really alert for learning at a conference and not having had a good night of sleep. It stinks. So earplugs might be a great answer for you, especially if you sleep with a snorer. That might be a big thing. Or of course, you've got to have your partner address the cause of his snoring. I've had too many people in relationships who tell me that their partners are snorers. So whether your partner's a man or a woman, if they're snoring, you've got to address the snoring so that you can get a good night of sleep. And finally, in terms of sleep environment, you just want to make sure that so just to sum it up, that it's a comfortable environment, it's a quiet environment, it's a dark environment, it's a cool environment. All of those things are essential to you getting a better night of sleep. Number 4, good sleep hygiene. What does that mean? Well, that's what they call it in the sleep world, but good sleep habits basically is all I'm saying. So it starts with the simplest of things, a fixed bedtime and a fixed waking time. Going back again to my kids, when my kids were growing up, if they didn't have a good bedtime and a good wake time, and they didn't have fixed nap times, they were a mess. If we weren't able to keep to those times, they were a total mess. And anybody who's raised kids, you know exactly what I'm saying. And you know what? Just because you're a grown-up doesn't excuse you from the same thing. So going to sleep at the same time every night, waking up at the same time every morning, those are going to help you stay asleep. And if you're not doing, it might sound like BS to you, but if you're not doing it right now and you're not sleeping, well, you got to try it, because it really does make a difference. Your body, you train your body knows when it's time to go to sleep, when it's time to wake up. What about naps? I would avoid long naps during the day. So I meet a lot of people who don't sleep well at night. So of course they want to nap during the day. If you're going to nap, I would recommend keeping it to between 15 and 30 minutes, no longer. Even cut it to 10 minutes if you can. You know, Dr. Oz talks about a 10-minute nap he takes. I tried it and it does work. You can take a 10-minute nap once you train yourself. So if you do have to take a nap, make it short. We talked a little bit about alcohol already, but alcohol is a sleep killer. Pretty much everybody who drinks knows if you have a couple of drinks, it'll help you get to sleep faster, but you'll wind up waking up in the middle of the night. It's not worth it. So if you're putting yourself to sleep with a little bit of alcohol, just know that if you're waking up 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., it's probably because you drank yourself to sleep, and that's not a good strategy. Foods, avoiding heavy, spicy, sugary foods before bed is key because a lot of people get reflux when they lie down. The food comes back up on them. So if you eat spicy foods especially, or a heavy meal before bed and then lie down, you're more likely to have it repeat on you, which is going to wake you up for sure. Exercising before bed. Of course, I want you to exercise. There's no way in heck that I don't want you to exercise. And I really love morning exercises best. People who exercise in the morning are more likely to stick with it. Don't exercise before bed. It fires you up. It makes it harder to get to sleep. And finally, I want to tell you, I want you to use the bed for just 2 things: sleep and sex. That's it. Don't use your bed for other things. Don't use your bed to watch TV. Don't even use your bed to read. Try using a chair in the room or go out into a different room. You want your body to be completely trained that the only thing it does in that bed is sleep. Again, going back to the babies. What do we train our babies? That the crib is for sleep. You don't let the baby play in the crib, right? You take them out of the crib to play so that they know that the crib is just for sleep. Well, you know what? We're just like babies when it comes to sleep, and we need to know that our bed is just for sleep. Now, of course, adults, we have the added benefit of sex, which is great, and the bed is a great place to have sex. Of course, there's many other places you could have sex, and that's great too, but sleep and sex, I really want you to limit the number of things that you do in your bed because it's going to help you sleep. So now I want to talk to you about yet another thing that I learned about. I'm going to take a sip of water first. Yet another thing I learned about when I was raising my kids, when they were babies. There's this sleep doctor, Harvard sleep doctor and scientist named Richard Ferber, and he created a movement basically that a lot of moms and dads call Ferberizing. Whether you agreed with Ferberizing your kids or not, or whether you even have any idea what I'm talking about, it doesn't really matter. Ferberizing is essentially, it's a method to letting them cry it out, like they said in the old days, but there's a method to it, and you visit the child incrementally. But when I was reading this book, I learned some really cool things about sleep. And of course, I've learned a lot more about it since then, but the way he explains it is just beautiful to me. Basically, when you are sleeping, we get into these different phases of sleep, right? And most people know about REM sleep, but what you might not know is that you get into a phase of sleep that's very, very light. It's so light, in fact, that you're awake, and you kind of just check your surroundings. You know, is everything okay? Was everything like it was when I fell asleep? So during that time, for instance, let's say somebody had managed to sneak in and steal your pillow when you were in a really deep phase of sleep. You might not have noticed it when you were in that deep phase of sleep, but when you get into this light phase, you'll notice it and you'll go in search of that pillow. And that's the example Ferber gives in his book. And it hit home with me. It helped it sink in, because what happens with babies, if you give a baby a pacifier, let's say, right? And the baby falls asleep, the minute the pacifier falls out of their mouth, wah, wah, they're crying because they want that pacifier back, because the way that they learn to fall asleep is with that pacifier in their mouth. So that's the important takeaway. The way that we fall asleep, our body is going to be looking for the conditions to be exactly the same while we're asleep at night. So if you fall asleep at night to the TV, and then you have a sleep timer, shut your TV off, your body's going to get to that light phase of sleep, and it's going to be looking for the TV, just like a baby looking for the pacifier. So if you're falling asleep, if you're putting yourself to sleep with some activity, whether it's reading or watching TV or whatever it is, that is something that might be keeping you awake at night. It might be waking you up. So don't use a sleep timer to fall asleep, and don't fall asleep in any way other than in a dark room, in your bed with all the environment stuff we talked about already, and just with the lights off, go to sleep that way. And try not to fall asleep on the couch in front of the TV like so many people do. Try not to do that, because that is actually going to make your sleep worse at night too. All right, so we've been through 1, nutrition, 2, establishing the bedtime ritual, 3, sleep environment, 4, sleep hygiene, and now we're moving on to strategy number 5, which is balance your hormones. Your hormones have a lot to do with sleep. I mentioned earlier how lack of estrogen can cause especially hot flashes and lack of sleep, but even if you don't have hot flashes, you might have low estrogen that might be causing trouble with sleep. Low progesterone. Progesterone is the hormone of sleep. Believe it or not, low progesterone can definitely be causing your lack of sleep. Excess cortisol, I've talked about that a few times already, and how that might be causing trouble with sleep. So what can you do? How do you know about this and what's going on? So in terms of balancing cortisol, my program 3 weeks to endless energy, if you're already doing 3 weeks to endless energy, you know what I'm talking about. If you're burning up, if your cortisol's too high, it's going to keep you from sleeping at night. It's going to keep you anxious and keep you from sleeping at night. And it's going to rob you of these good hormones like progesterone and testosterone, but progesterone in particular for sleep and calming. So if your cortisol isn't working right, if it's not balanced, if you don't have high cortisol in the morning but low cortisol as you go throughout the day, then your cortisol's out of balance. And what does that come from? Well, a big thing it comes from is stress. And stress is another thing that I devote programs to, because stress is such a big controller of what happens with our hormones and what happens with our sleep. So when we're stressed out, we make cortisol. And when we make cortisol, it robs our body of other hormones that we need, namely, in this case, progesterone. So getting your cortisol under control is super important to getting a good night's sleep. So I've already talked about some of the ways to do it. To not eat high sugar foods, to eat a little something before you go to sleep. That will help balance your cortisol. Other things are relaxation techniques. And I'm going to get into that and do a relaxation technique with you at the end of this video. So what else can you do? You can possibly even consider whether you need hormone replacement, particularly progesterone. Progesterone creams are available over the counter, and they can help women sleep. Now, what I recommend, if you're going to take a hormone, I do recommend evaluating your levels of that hormone. So there are plenty of at-home saliva kits that are available where you can measure your progesterone level and see whether you measure up or not. And if you don't, you might want to consider taking a small amount of progesterone cream over the counter. Or, of course, another way to go about this is to consult your gynecologist or your primary care doctor and get your hormone levels measured. Now, if you're menopausal and you measure in the menopausal range, that's to be expected, and your doctor's going to tell you that's perfectly normal. But that may be a big part of your sleep problem, that your body misses the progesterone it used to have when you weren't in menopause. I'm a big fan of hormone replacement. I'm not going to derail this whole video to talk about hormone replacement. I talk about that in many other videos that you can look up online. But people think hormones are unsafe, and the reason they think they're unsafe is because there are studies that show that the artificial hormones that are not the same as what's in our body naturally are unsafe. Absolutely. But if you use hormones that are exactly the same as what's in our body naturally, there are studies to show that that's a safer way to go. And that's a subject for another day, like I said, but I really encourage you to learn a lot more about your hormones, because they control so much of what happens in your body, including sleep. And hormones can be a big key of how I help people get back to sleep. So if you haven't looked at your hormones, definitely check them out, because they really might be part of what's going on that's interfering with your sleep. Okay, so that was number 5. Now we're going to hit number 6. And you might have seen this one coming, sleep supplements. Of course, there are supplements that are great that can help you sleep. So some of my favorites are valerian, passion flower, jujube seed, lemon balm, chamomile. A lot of these have studies that have been done with them, including lemon balm, for example, has been shown to be as effective for sleep as some of those barbiturate medications that I mentioned earlier, the ones, the anti-anxiety drugs like Valium, Xanax, things like that. A lot of these herbs can work super well, and I love to use them in combination with one another. That's, I think, the way that you can get to sleep the best. Another supplement that I use a lot to help get people to sleep is L-theanine. L-theanine, about 200 milligrams usually before sleep, can really help stop that obsessive thinking when you can't shut off your mind and it feels like it's just churning and churning and churning. I know how that feels because I definitely get that sometimes, and that's part of people who are burning up and have high cortisol from high stress lives. Believe me, happens to all of us, happens to me certainly. And L-theanine is a great supplement to use to help get you back to sleep. I use it frequently. And sometimes I use it in combination with some of these other supplements that I mentioned. They help take the edge off anxiety and help me get to sleep and stay asleep. And other things that you might want to try for sleep, if you don't want to take a supplement orally, you can use essential oils. Essential oils are basically oils that you can rub on your skin or you can inhale, and they make it easier to get to sleep. One that's really well known, and I used this with my kids, was lavender. I would rub in a little lavender lotion on them, or even use like a lavender sachet, with by their pillow or something like that. Something to give that lavender scent, because it's such a great soothing scent. And you can buy lavender sprays for your pillows. I just really encourage you, don't buy something with lavender perfume. Make sure you get the essential oil lavender, because all of these perfumes are synthetic perfumes. They're not good for you to inhale, but essential oils are excellent to inhale. So besides lavender, another one or two that you might want to consider trying, one is called Neroli, Neroli. I use it in an amazing face spray by a company called Anne Marie Gianni. Anne Marie Gianni skincare products are amazing, and I use their Neroli face spray, and I use it in the evening, and so it's a really nice thing to do before you get into bed. Another oil that you might want to use is called vetiver. Vetiver is a nice calming herb that can help you get to sleep easier and have a better sleep through the night. So try essential oils if you've never tried them before. Now, of course, we're going to come to the queen or king of sleep supplements, melatonin. To take melatonin, not to take melatonin, it's a whole big debate out there these days, how much melatonin. Well, the good news with melatonin is it's a non-addicting sleep supplement, but it's not really just a sleep supplement. What it actually is it's a hormone. It's a hormone that your body releases. Remember, I told you a little earlier, it really helps control your sleep-wake cycle. So when it's dark out, our bodies produce melatonin, and when it's light out, our bodies produce almost no melatonin at all during the day. And so melatonin can be a real good sleep aid because it can help you, boosting your melatonin levels can help you get to sleep and stay asleep. So one thing I want to mention, if you're having more trouble getting to sleep, you might want to take melatonin under your tongue in a sublingual fashion because it enters the bloodstream quicker. If you're having trouble staying asleep, you might want to take your melatonin as a pill, as a capsule, because it's going to stay in the system longer. So melatonin, another thing to keep in mind is that it declines with age. So if you're an older person having trouble with sleep, melatonin may be a great way to go. And when I say older people though, even people in their 50s and 60s might have lower levels of melatonin because it just gets lower and lower as we age. So really, and people though are even recommending sometimes melatonin for even children sometimes can benefit from very tiny doses of melatonin. Now, I'm not recommending dosing melatonin without the recommendation of your physician. you should talk to your physician about melatonin and what dose they think is appropriate, and especially if you want to give it to your kids. I'm definitely not telling you go out and give your kids melatonin. Check with your doctor. But another thing to realize is that melatonin, some people are afraid, well, I'm going to get hooked on melatonin, or I shouldn't take it every night. But something to realize about melatonin that's really cool is that it may have anti-cancer properties. Melatonin has been shown to be successful in helping with certain cancers. So some people are thinking about melatonin as a medication and thinking they don't want to get addicted to it or it might be bad for them. But I think melatonin is a lot safer than any of the sleep medications on the market and a much better choice. So while there may be side effects from using too much melatonin, it can cause headaches, nausea, dizziness, or irritability. So don't take too much. And if you're having any of those symptoms and you're taking melatonin, see if you need a lower dose. Another thing to keep in mind is if your cortisol is burning up, if you're making too much cortisol, and if you don't know what I'm talking about with burning up, burning low, and burning out, check out my energy quiz, because my energy quiz is going to tell you what state you're in, which energy state. Are you burning up, are you burning low, or burning out? And if you're burning up, meaning you make too much cortisol, cortisol can interfere with melatonin. So particularly for people who are burning up, melatonin can be very helpful. But I do want to caution people who are burning low and burning out, melatonin might not be the thing for you. You might not want to use melatonin because it actually can give you that hangover effect and maybe make you more tired. So again, if you're going to use melatonin, you want to check with your doctor. You also want to look at the side effects in terms of dosage. Yet one more side effect I want to mention is nightmares. Melatonin can give people vivid nightmares. So if you've tried melatonin, you've had vivid nightmares, melatonin might not be right for you. So now we've gone through supplements, essential oils, we've worked our way all the way up to sleep medication. So I really try to get my patients off of sleep medication whenever possible. You definitely don't want to do this without talking to your doctor. I want you to talk to your doctor. If they started you on a sleep medication, I want you to talk to them about getting off of it. But I'd really like you to try to get off of it because it's got so many detrimental effects we're seeing. It impairs memory the next day. It impairs reaction time and all kinds of different things that it can be affecting. It can be affecting your mood. So if you feel more depressed, it could be your sleep medication. If you feel like you can't focus, if you feel like your memory is more poor, it might be your sleep medication. So work with your doctor on trying to get off the sleep medication and know that you'll probably have to do it slowly, like cutting it in half and then maybe every other night until you really break the habit. But I wish you lots of good luck with that because I think people's lives, I've seen people's lives really improve after getting off the sleep medication. And doing all of these other strategies we're talking about is definitely going to help. So finally, we're up to strategy number 7, relaxation techniques. Practicing relaxation techniques throughout the day and certainly into the evening can really make a huge difference in your sleep. I have seen so many people tell me that it's made a humongous difference in their lives when they've been able to do even just 15 minutes of meditation before they go to bed, or even guided meditation. One thing to do is just Google the words guided meditation or guided meditation for sleep. You will find tons and tons of free resources that you can download to your phone or whatever recording device that you like, iPad, whatever, and listen to before you go to sleep. There are tons of free resources for this. And I'd also recommend doing relaxation techniques during the day. Maybe meditate in the morning and at night, or do some Tai Chi or some yoga. Another thing to practice is the idea of mindfulness, which is the idea of being present, really present in the moment. Not only will it make every minute and every day of your life better, and it will make your connections with other people better, because when you're present, giving people your attention, they're gonna feel you better. They're gonna feel your presence. And when people feel your presence, it's magic things can happen. But being present, especially as you're trying to go to bed at night, is super important because too many of us are thinking about what we have to do tomorrow, right? Tell me, I bet that happens to you. I bet you lie in bed and you think about what happened during the day, the past, or what's gonna happen tomorrow. And when you're thinking about the past and thinking about the future, you're not helping yourself get to sleep. You've got to think about the present. One of my favorite books for learning more about being in the present is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Oprah had recommended this book up, down, and backwards. It's not a new book at all, and you may have read it, but it may even be time to reread it. I reread that book every couple of years because I always get something great, something new out of it, a better way of connecting with my family, a better way of just being relaxed as I go throughout my day. So I strongly recommend it. And maybe for you, it's just prayer, because prayer is all about being present in the moment. And when you pray, you're looking at the abundance and you're looking at gratitude, and that's all kinds of wonderful, relaxing things to do before you go to sleep. So now I want to do with you a progressive relaxation exercise. Yes, I want to do it with you right now. I want you to show yourself that you can do this. So this is essentially what would be a guided meditation. I want to guide you through a meditation. And I want to tell you, I do this with my daughter most nights, and she loves it. We just call it her meditation, and she always asks me, Mommy, can you give me a meditation? It helps me sleep so much better. And we do this exercise that I'm going to do with you right now, and it helps her sleep. And anytime that I can't get to sleep, this is exactly what I do to put myself back to sleep. It works like a charm. So please do this with me right now. If you can, where you are, if you can still hear my voice, lie down. You don't need to be watching the video. Lie down. If you can lie down on a bed, if you can lie down on a carpet, on the floor, or just get really comfy in your chair, sit in a comfortable chair and get really comfy, and close your eyes. And I want you to first start by focusing on your feet. Feel the weight of your feet sinking into the bed or the floor, and feel the support of the bed or the floor supporting your feet, supporting them and holding them gently. And I want you to think about this for each part of your body that we talk about. Now imagine a wave of relaxation that starts at your toes and then slowly moves up your body. It's going to slowly move from your toes throughout your feet. And you may even feel, I feel like sort of a tingling feeling when I do this. You may feel this tingling and a warmth coming over your feet. And then I want you to move this wave of relaxation up to your ankles. I want you to feel the support of your ankles on the bed or on the floor, and then I want you to feel your ankles relax, and I want you to feel the wave of relaxation moving up your calves. And now I want you to focus on your knees. I want you to feel your knees as they're supported either by the chair or the floor. I want you to feel them as heavy and as they're supported, and I want you to feel that wave of relaxation moving through your knees and up into your thighs. And then I want you to notice the way that your thighs are supported by the bed or the floor, how heavy they feel, and just let the weight of them really sink down. And imagine that wave of relaxation as it moves up through your lower thigh, then to your upper thigh. And imagine that wave of relaxation continuing. And now feel the weight of your buttocks and your pelvis as they weigh down either on the chair that you're sitting in or on the floor. And as you feel the chair or the floor supporting them back, imagine that wave of relaxation just moving up into your pelvis and your buttocks, up into your lower back and your abdomen. And then focus on your lower back and your abdomen, and then even your chest and your upper back as you feel the weight of those parts of your body on your chair and moving up and feeling your weight, the weight of your body on the floor. As it moves up through your body, the wave of relaxation, you feel it moving all the way up from your lower abdomen to your upper abdomen and through your core, through your lower back to your upper back, throughout your whole core. And imagine, focus now on your hands. rest your hands either on your chair or on the floor or on the bed and feel them get heavy. Feel the weight of them pressing into whatever's supporting them, and feel the support that your hands are getting. Take a nice deep breath in and feel that wave of relaxation as it moves through your hands and up into your arms. And feel your arms feeling heavy, and then feel that wave of relaxation as it moves up through your arms, into your shoulders, and finally into your neck. And start to feel those neck muscles really relax. And feel your head and your neck as they just relax. Either relax them back or relax them forward. And just let them really relax. Feel that wave of relaxation as it moves up through the column of your neck muscles, all the way up into your head. Feel that wave of relaxation as it moves up into the tippy top of your head. And next, feel it flow down your face. Feel that wave of relaxation as it flows down your face into the muscles surrounding your eyes, your cheeks, and your mouth. Feel that wave of relaxation as it goes into your jaw, and let your jaw release. Let all the tension in your face just fade away. And now, as your body is totally relaxed, do a scan from toe to head and note anywhere that still you're holding a little tension. Send your focus to that area and send that wave of relaxation right to that area and let it relax. Imagine the knots in the muscles completely unraveling and you being completely relaxed. And just imagine your body floating on that wave of relaxation as you slowly drift off into a deep, sound sleep. I hope that exercise helped you feel more relaxed. Just saying it helped me feel more relaxed. Remember the 7 steps that I taught you to getting a great night of sleep. Step number 1 was nutrition. Number 2 was establishing your bedtime ritual. Step number 3 was your sleep environment. Number 4 was sleep hygiene. Number 5 was balance your hormones. Number 6 was sleep supplements. And number 7 was relaxation techniques. I hope you're able to use those 7 steps to help you get a better night's sleep tonight. You can start tonight. Because remember, getting a healthy 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and yes, that is my goal, 7 to 8 hours is what I want to see you getting. It will improve your mood. It's going to make your memory better. It's going to lower your stress. That's going to help control your cortisol, which is going to help prevent you from gaining weight or make it easier for you to lose weight. Getting a better night of sleep is going to boost your healthy hormones because we make hormones while we sleep. And getting a good night of sleep is going to decrease your risk of disease like heart disease and diabetes and even the common cold. Sleep helps boost our immune system. And when you're sleeping great, you're going to be feeling great. And when you feel great, you're going to have better focus at work. You're going to have more patience with your kids, your coworkers, your partner. And that's going to give you better connection in your life. And that's, after all, that's what most of us are striving for. Better connection, and ultimately that is going to lead you to greater happiness and greater joy. And that's what I want for you. So use your 7 sleep strategies, and I'm wishing you the best of great health, the best of great happiness, and a great night of sleep.